a camera with two cameras. The Insta360 X5, their latest and greatest 360 camera. So it comes with a protective case, cleaning cloth and USB-C data transfer cable, and some stickers, you know where that has to go, as well as some paperwork. And now for the best part, protective peel. Here's the camera. No, that's a Shrek DVD. Here's the real camera. On the back of the device, there's the back lens, a microphone grill, one of 4, as well as a recording indicator light at the bottom. On the right hand side, there is another microphone, power button, quick function button, as well as a small door that uncovers a USB-C port, tripod thread at the bottom. Left hand side, there's another microphone and the battery door. That reveals the battery and a micro SD card slot. Turning the device on, there's a touch screen you can use to reframe the image. Swipe down for settings, swipe from the left for playback, swipe up to change resolution and frame rate. You can click this button to change the mode. This circle is the record button, and this button is the quick switch button. So I've now had a couple of days to test out this camera, and I've come up with 10 reasons why you might want to pick one up. Just a quick disclaimer before we get into the video. So Insta360 did actually send me this X5 to test, but no contracts were signed, no money exchanged hands, so I can say whatever I want about this camera. And towards the end of this video, I am going to be adding in some negatives or some things that I think could be improved about this camera. So let's get into it. So my first reason as to why you should get the X5 is the crazy 360 footage. So I went on a boat to test out the 360 capabilities of this camera, and at first glance this might just look like your regular action cam footage, but look again. What the hell? When shooting in 360 degrees with a camera like the X5, you can create some very interesting shots. One of my favourites being the small world effect, achieved by zooming right out and stretching the top of the image and compressing the bottom of the image. It looks like you're on a small world, it's pretty cool. And you can also do the reverse of this, what I like to call the small sky effect, because the sky becomes very small. And you can create these very interesting perspectives that you can't achieve with any other type of camera. And the X5 can shoot up to 8K, so you can crop, reframe the image and still maintain some pretty good quality. And because this camera captures 360 degrees, you can basically just click record, live in the moment and worry about framing your shots afterwards. I can think of loads of occasions where having this camera would have been really useful. Well, yes, this is recorded on the X5 in the studio. Just a quick reminder, if you are enjoying, be sure to drop us a like and consider subscribing. And if you have got any questions about this camera, leave them in the comment section below. Anyway, let's get on with the video. So my second reason for picking up the Insta360 X5 is being a one-man production. What I mean by this, if you're someone that creates YouTube videos and you don't have a dedicated camera person, then this camera might be quite useful for you, because you can just stick it on the end of an invisible selfie stick and get third-person shots of yourself in ways that you couldn't with any other sort of camera. And Insta360 sent over 2 of their most popular selfie sticks for us to check out. So the most basic selfie stick Insta360 sell is the invisible selfie stick. So it attaches to the camera with a standard tripod thread, made of aluminium, super light, costs £25 and can extend to 114 centimeters, which is enough for most shots. And the good thing about this stick is because it's so thin, on the Insta360 X5 it appears invisible, like this. You can't see it. It's literally floating. So I took the invisible selfie stick outside to test it out, and even though this only extends just over 1 meter, you're able to get a very wide shot that includes your whole body, as well as a lot of the environment around you. So I'm pretty sure this stick will be good enough for most people, and it's pretty small and light. But if you're after something a bit more girthy, then I've got something to show you. That sounded wrong. So if the invisible selfie stick isn't enough, we've also been sent this, the extended edition selfie stick. Here it is. So the first thing you'll notice is for the size, it's actually very light, and that's because it's made from carbon fiber. And the reason you get this stick is because it can extend much further, all the way to 3 meters. It's like a massive fishing rod. You can pretend you're a giraffe. Quite like this thing. It is a bit more pricey than the invisible selfie stick at £100 on the Insta360 website as opposed to £25. But if you need the extra reach, this is a solid option. Feels very strong. The only thing to be aware of is because it's so big, it's not always going to be invisible. And when I went on the boat, the extended selfie stick was what I took because it allowed me to hang the X5 outside of the boat. And this meant that I could get these third-person shots, almost like a drone looking in on the boat. And even though this stick is so big, it still appears invisible on these shots, which is really cool. I can also imagine this stick's pretty useful for car content. So I went to a quiet road and stuck this pole out of the window and managed to get some pretty cool third-person car shots. So as well as the selfie stick, another essential mount is the head mount. Picked one up on the internet for about 10 quid. It's on my skull. I can't even see. Which one's is that the right one for record? This allows you to do POV shots. Pretty cool for like driving or cycling or running or whatever you want to do with it. But another cool thing you can do with this head mount is you can drop the camera down and now you're filming your face. Creature activate. My third reason to pick up the Insta360 X5 is the Matrix. Isn't this bullet time effect from the Matrix pretty cool? Well, guess what? Insta360 actually includes a bullet time mode built into the X5, as well as sell an accessory specifically for the bullet time effect. So the final selfie stick that Insta360 sent over is probably the most interesting. It is the bullet time selfie stick 2.0. So it actually looks very similar to the invisible selfie stick, and in many ways it does the same function. It's basically just a selfie stick. But its party trick is, the bottom there's this lock. You just twist it to unlock it and then pull it and there's a hinge like that. Why would you want a selfie stick on a hinge? Well, actually, so if you go into record mode on the X5, there is actually a bullet time effect, a bit like the Matrix. So what you do is you click record. You want to be careful you don't whack anything. Spin this around your head. Like that. You can use this in many creative ways to get that bullet time effect. So I went to the top of a hill to test out this effect. Unfortunately, that turned out kind of mid. So I decided to try again whilst jumping, and this looked a little bit better. So my fourth reason for picking up the Insta360 X5 is the surprisingly good low light performance. So I'm someone that up until recently owned mainly just GoPros, Hero 9 here, which is from a couple of years ago. And even though these cameras are generally pretty good, their low light performance is pretty rubbish. So I didn't really know what to expect when testing out the X5. On paper it has got fairly large image sensors for a 360 camera, and it's also got a dedicated low light mode called PureVideo. Should we test it out? We're testing out the low light capabilities of the X5 using the PureVideo low light mode. So we're going outside in the dark. We've got an outside light on over there, but we're going to walk over here where it is actually a bit darker. And from what I'm seeing on the screen, it actually looks really good. For an action camera, I'm very impressed. I'm someone who's come from a GoPro and they're notoriously pretty bad at low light. So this is pretty good, especially for a 360 camera. Look at that, you can see the moon. The moon is properly lit up. I'm impressed. Just for some reference, this is what my iPhone looks like. Looks alright, but as you can see, this also looks pretty good. Now I do want to test out the Timelapse camera mode, so I'm going to turn this light off and we're going to test it out. So I set the camera up on a stable surface, turned all the lights off and used the remote shutter on the Air microphone to take the photo. I left the exposure for a couple of minutes to see what happened, and when I got back to view the image I was a little bit disappointed. I think the problem was the full moon was out and it was very bright, so that's why it looks like the sun, but it's actually the moon. I'm the moon. So my fifth reason to pick up the Insta360 X5 is actually this tiny little thing here, the Air microphone. In the box you get some instructions, a carrying case with the microphone inside. There's also a USB-C receiver which I'm using right now to connect it to my iPhone, as well as a magnetic plate used to connect it to your clothing. It also comes with a windshield, as well as a charging cable and a clip mount. And I'm just amazed how small this thing is. It's literally the size of a pound coin. It makes my DJI microphone look massive. A tiny wireless microphone that pairs perfectly with this camera. And it means that I can take this head mount off and walk all the way over here to the corner of my room. My room's such a mess. I also want to try disconnecting this thing because apparently Insta360 have improved the onboard microphone. So I've disconnected the wireless Air microphone just so we can test out the new and improved onboard audio. Is this audio usable? Is it good enough for a YouTube video? And do I even need to bother using a wireless microphone? I'll let you be the judge of that. Reason 6, there's a pretty cool time-lapse and hyperlapse feature. I took this hyperlapse when I was on the boat and it added this motion blur effect which looks really cool. My 7th reason, it can take 72 megapixel 360 photos. Not only is the quality decent, I can imagine this being pretty useful for landscape photography. I can also imagine this would be pretty useful for like real estate photography. So my 8th reason is this mode they've added called InstaFrame 2.0. So InstaFrame 2.0 is probably the most useful mode to myself and most other users, I assume. It basically turns your X5 into a Pocket 3 with active face tracking. And instead of producing a 360 video file, which can be quite annoying to reframe, it takes extra time, it creates just a flat video file like a normal 16:9 video file or vertical video if you select that. So the video file you're seeing now, I haven't had to edit, the camera has just produced it. So it basically turns the X5 into a normal action camera with gimbal-like functionality. As you can see, I can move my head anywhere and the camera's tracking it. So I can imagine for most people this is probably the mode that they're going to be using the most just because it's the easiest. It produces uploadable video files straight out of the camera, which is handy and saves a lot of time. So my final 2 reasons are actually hardware features. So you're probably looking at this thing thinking the lenses look really easy to scratch. There's 2 of them and they're both protruding. So you basically can't lie this camera flat without a lens touching the ground. Now you can reduce that risk. They do sell this lens cover. They call it the lens cap, but it's basically this bit of silicone that you can push over the end of the lens. But even using this, you might scratch the lenses anyway, and this is where Insta360 has you covered. So they actually sell a lens replacement kit, so if you scratch or crack the lens cover, you can basically just unscrew it and put a new one on, which is a very handy feature for a 360 camera to have. So my 10th and final reason to get the X5 is actually the battery life. So when I first received this camera, I actually had quite low expectations for the battery life, mainly because of how small and thin this thing was. I was like, how are they going to cram a decent battery in? But actually it includes a 2400 milliamp hour battery, and they were actually nice enough to send over a replacement battery that comes in this pretty nice case. So you can have I nearly dropped it there. So you can get a couple of batteries and keep them on you if you're going to be using this camera for an extended period of time, but you might not need to. So at 5.7K, it's actually got 135 minutes of battery life. And when recording at 8K, it has 93 minutes of record time, which I think is pretty decent. I mean, I took it out on the boat for a couple of hours with 1 charge and 1 battery. And I think after that trip, I came home with about 30 to 40% battery life. So it lasted me the whole trip. So another cool battery related feature is fast charging. So this thing will take itself from 0 to 80% in 20 minutes. So yeah, overall the Insta360 X5 has been a very enjoyable camera. I've never actually used a 360 camera before now, and I have been very impressed. I think in many ways it could actually replace my Osmo Action 6. I bought this camera because I thought the quality would be a lot better, but actually, even though this is a 360 camera, I would say the quality is comparable. So I probably could have got away with just getting this. This takes all the action camera shots I would want, as well as really cool wide angle 360 shots that you can't achieve with a standard action camera. So in many ways this is a very cool camera to have. And the fact that it has its own wireless microphone as well as an ecosystem of accessories, this would probably be my perfect YouTube B camera. So before we wrap up, and to keep this an unbiased review, there are actually a couple of things that could be improved or maybe released in the X6 when that comes out. The X5 does not have 10-bit color, which isn't a massive issue to me because I don't really color grade action camera footage. But if you are someone that color grades your action camera footage a lot, then there are going to be some limitations because this thing only has 8-bit color. Another thing that could maybe be added in the next model is internal storage. So the amount of times I've taken the SD card out to transfer files to my computer and then forgotten to put it back in. And with this camera, if you do that, you can't record anything because it hasn't got any storage. Whereas recently, brands like DJI have been including some internal storage. So this Action 6 has 50 gigabytes of internal storage, which means even if you forget the SD card, you can still record for about an hour and a half. And the final thing that's a little bit annoying about this camera is the fact when you first buy the camera, you have to connect it to a smartphone download the Insta360 app on that smartphone to activate this camera. This isn't necessarily a gripe with Insta360 because loads of brands do it nowadays. For example, when I got my Osmo Action 6, I also had to activate this camera with the app. One thing I am going to say though is the Insta360 app is pretty good and you do actually need it to reframe footage. So even though I was a bit annoyed that I had to download it to activate the camera, I would have downloaded it anyway. So yeah, the app's pretty good. Anyway, hopefully you've enjoyed this video checking out the Insta360 X5. Thank you to Insta360 for sending this. As I said, not a sponsored video, my own thoughts on this camera after using it for a couple of days. If you have enjoyed, drop us a like and consider subscribing, and I'll see everyone next time.